Hey YouTube, welcome to Jeff and Paper Dairy. It is Sunday, May the 17th, back in the garage again, finishing up or working on the elevators. I thought that maybe it would be a reasonable goal to finish up elevators today, and then I realized that when it comes to the skeleton, there's all the deburring and priming, or deburring, scuffing, cleaning, priming things that take for freaking ever. So we're gonna work on it today. Don't know where we're gonna get or how long, but hopefully we'll make some good progress. There are a couple of rivets from yesterday in the back riveting of the stiffeners that I don't like. There's two of them. They're sitting just a little bit proud that need to come out of there and get replaced. So we're gonna work on that. Also had a lighting failure on the west side of the shop, so it looks like it's time to go replace some old fluorescents with LED shop lights. So maybe a trip to Lowe's later on. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Let's hang out and see what we learn.
Okay, on the subject of what we learned today, how to properly back rivet. Back riveting is everybody's favorite method of riveting, I think, because it is pretty easy and it's fast. But it's not foolproof. As I mentioned at the tail end of the last video, and I want to talk about it in a little bit more detail here, if you're not careful when you're riveting those trailing edge rivets where you have to really open up that skin to get your rivet gun in there, you can actually cause the bottom skin that's sitting against the rivet plate to bow a little bit. And when you do that, it gives just enough room for the rivet to push out while you're trying to rivet it. And that happened to me a few times here. And I thought, well, first, I guess maybe the first time I didn't notice or didn't understand what happened. The second time, I did see that it happened. The third time, I thought, well, I'll just hold it down really tight with a rivet gun and that'll fix it. And it didn't. I think I did this like 3 or 4 times. Until I finally realized, like, you have to actively put your hand on that metal, push it flat against that thing, and then go rivet it. So, other point to mention here when you're drilling out these rivets, this is the last rivet in these stiffeners, and as we have talked about and learned from the mistakes of others, if you're not careful and you're using a punch and a hammer to kind of tap out the tail end of the rivet after you've drilled the head off, you can bend that stiffener pretty easily. And so I had my daughter in there holding a block of wood against her while I tapped out the rivet from the other side because it was not cooperating to let me pull it out from the tail end. So now we're getting into the buildup of the skeleton, and you start with a spar. And this is not unlike the spar that we did for the rudder. There's a couple of points where some nut plates will go in that we will thread in some eyelets later that are part of the hinge assembly. And on each side of the spar, there are some doubler plates or reinforcement plates. The ones that sit inside the channel have to be shaped a little bit on the edges. So I took a file and just kind of radiused those edges nice and smooth like, so that when you set them inside the spar, you don't have that sharp edge of the metal intersecting or setting into the bend radius of the flanges of that spar. So took a little bit of time just to file those things up, and then maybe a little bit of cleanup on the 3M wheel here, and they fit in there really nicely. So nothing too spectacular about those. You put those things all together and then you match drill them, right? So then you take them apart and do some deburring, and they're good to go. Then there's some work on the inboard. I think these are the inboard ribs, and there's 2 of them that made up to one another. And so doing my ever favorite task of deburring and cleaning up some of those holes, and apparently going inside for a quick Gatorade break. But getting those things together so that you can put this little assembly together. And so the 2 ribs get together and you do some match drilling on there when they're on the spar, and then you take it off and you fit the lead block in there and the piece of metal that kind of wraps around that. Now, we talked about this in a previous video. What I have found works best, because you put that thing on there, you put those 2 ribs there, you put the lead block in place, and you put that strip of metal that goes around there, and those holes don't come anywhere close to lining up, and you're like, man, how the heck am I going to get these things to line up? What we don't want to do, and we talked about this in the previous video, but I'll give a reminder, you don't want to use like a steel pick or an awl or anything to go in there and try to force those things to line up. What you will end up doing is enlarging or making those holes oblong. So you want to be very careful how you go about that. Right here, you see me take a a poor attempt at using a hacksaw to cut that lead block, and then moving over to the bandsaw for most of the cutting, and then just cleaning up with the hacksaw. The instructions are pretty clear on this. They show the profile of the lead block, and there's a section to be removed. It's a hatched out section, and I think you need to end up with 5/8 or no less than 1/2 inch of lead remaining, and then put a nice radius down there so you don't have a stress riser where your two cut lines intersect. So I would just use a bandsaw, but lead is really soft, so when you're cutting that, go really, really slow and be very careful. Don't try to just jam that thing through the bandsaw, because that will not end well for you, I fear. So now, once you get that cut and you're putting these things into place, you see me putting these clecos in here, and I'm using a rawhide mallet, and I tap on this, and this is what I found works really well here, is just tap on the edges of that metal to help it form around that lead block, because it does have a little bit of a curve to it, and that will help get those holes aligned really closely to where you can go put the clecos in. Now here I'm sitting down and watching one of my own previous videos as a reminder, just as kind of a sanity check. The next step on this, once you get those things together, is to match drill through the end of that metal strip, through the lead block, and then through the ribs, so that they can get a bolt in there later to hold that whole assembly together. And I wanted to check. I was pretty sure that I recommended that you do not use a pilot hole. Like, you don't use a smaller drill bit to drill a hole and then try to enlarge that hole with a bigger bit. All that does is make your second go with a bit very grabby experience and a pain in the butt. And so just go with the final size drill. Now here you're going to see it, and it's I'm not quite straight on this one, and I caution you, try to hold that as straight as possible, because you're going to go through that lead block and then into that flange on the rib, and you've got to have enough room to put a nut and a bolt on there. So one of them looked really good. One of them was a little close to the inboard edge, so I'm hoping that's not going to be a problem later on. But keep in mind that you just go really slow with that drill, use a lot of oil, take the drill bit out occasionally and pull the lead out of those flutes. Those flutes on your drill bit need to stay clear to remove the material. So take it slow and you'll be fine. And that's going to be about it for this video. I will turn it over to Live Action Jeff for the closeout. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you again soon.
All right, everyone, it's cleanup time. Getting late in the day, so got to pack up shop. Got quite a bit done today. I feel good. It was great being back in the garage again. It always feels good to be back in the garage and working. Hopefully I don't have a long span. Well, unfortunately I am going to have a long span. I've got a crazy busy week this week, and then we're getting into the holidays. So it might be a little while until you see us again, but I'm happy with what we got done. So thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. Please like, share, subscribe, comment if you have any comments or questions. And until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. This is Jeff and Paper Gary out.